Assalamu alaikum. Foundation of Muslim world, ethical theories. We're going to look a little bit on the ethical theories that as a background for the foundation, to understand the foundation of the Muslim world. What are the purpose of ethical theories? They provide a comprehensive perspective on morality. That is the purpose. And it clarifies, organizes and guides moral reflection. So we're going to see both from the old theories that we have from Socrates or Aristotle or Plato or Hippocrates, and we later will reconcile or reconnect them or compare them with the divine morality that is given by God Almighty in subsequent clips, inshallah. So it provides a framework for making responsible moral choices, and obviously they play a role in all areas of life. Principles, honesty, integrity, value, honor, choice, conscience. So all these things are involved. There are basically 5 types of ethical theories that we'll be seeing now. Rights ethics, duty ethics, utilitarianism, virtue ethics, and self-realization ethics. None of these 5 theories have won a consensus. It's not that out of these 5, 1 or 2 stand out. They are all kind of they have their different versions, and people agree with some of the aspects and maybe not in other aspects. So let's see how it goes. Right ethics. What are right ethics? They say we got to respect human rights. Obviously, it starts from there. We have fellow human beings. It starts from respecting fellow human beings. And there are moral entitlements that impose duties on other people. It's both sides of the coin. You have your rights and you have to fulfill rights of others. Respecting the inherent dignity and worth of individuals. This is what right ethics is all about. And there are certain moral rights also. Moral rights, which means that what happens is, generally when we buy something, there is a main printout on the good things of that product, and then there is a fine print that has all the adverse effects of that product, for instance. So that should not be a fine print. It should be a very clear print, because when people look at the fine print, that small written print, that usually do not read them. So this is a moral right that we have, or we should exercise, or the right that we have. Okay, there are 2 types of rights, obviously. Like there's a liberty right, that we have the liberty to do whatever we want to do, whatever profession we want to join. And then there's a welfare right. If there's certain things we cannot do, if a person is handicapped, he is mentally challenged, for instance, or physically challenged, so the state takes over. So he has his rights in that aspect also. And the second one is duty ethics. Duty ethics are the right actions to respect the liberty or autonomy of individuals. It is our duty. Being peaceful, for instance, is a lifestyle. We got to adopt being peaceful, being tolerant, being able to absorb the difference of opinions. If anybody differs with us, we should have this courage, this moral courage, to absorb the other person's difference of opinions as compared to us. For instance, the very universal important duties: we shall not kill or not cause pain, we will not disable anybody or deprive anybody of freedom or pleasure, or we shall not deceive, obviously fulfill our promises, obeying the law, not cheating, etc., etc. And obviously our duties towards our family, our society, our neighbors, all these come on. How do we know these are our duties? How do we know them? There is a great actually philosopher, Immanuel Kant. He was a German philosopher. So he said that persons deserve respect because they are moral agents. We are moral agents. If you see, I started this presentation that we shall compare the philosophies of human beings with the philosophy of God. See, he is a creator. He has also given a philosophy. So we'll compare them. So he contends that human beings are moral beings, capable of recognizing and voluntarily responding to moral. Immorality occurs when we reduce other people to mere means to our ends and needs. I mean, if we use anybody for our ends, that is immorality. For instance, violent acts such as murder, rape, torture are ways of treating people as mere objects to serve our purposes. This is where morality comes in. We also fail to respect persons if we fail to provide support for them when they are in desperate need. And this is how it is. Obviously, there are certain duties which refrain us from interfering in other person's liberty. I mean, if he doesn't want us to talk to that person, if he doesn't want to interfere in his affairs or her affairs, that it is a moral obligation on us. We should not interfere then. Now, these are all simple things, but we have a duty to ourselves also, to ourselves. For instance, we shall not commit suicide, or very important duty to develop our inborn talents and avoid harmful things, doing drugs, drinking, or these are things which are harmful to our soul. So we have a duty on ourselves also to refrain from these things. Obviously, treat others the way you would like to be treated. And morality is not only a matter of being honest. If you want to prosper, there is a saying, for instance, that if you want to prosper, be honest. No, honest has to be across the board, honesty. It doesn't mean that if you want to be successful or unsuccessful, it is something that comes inherently to us. Irrespective of whatever we want to do with our lives, it says that honesty is something which should be exuded from our personality. Okay, then the third one is utilitarianism. It is the doctrine that actions are right if they are useful for the benefit of a majority. This is a very interesting concept, that the best thing that can happen is if we spread goodness around. That is should be the ultimate objective. See, it says that there is only one general moral requirement. What is that? It says produce the most good for the most people, giving equal consideration to everyone affected. See, there's another view. For instance, what is the standard for measuring good consequences? See, this can be very diversified. For instance, some utilitarians consider pleasure to be the only intrinsic good. But there is nothing good about the pleasures of tyrants and dictators and sadists who take pleasure in inflicting suffering to others. I mean, dictatorship is not a good thing. For that dictator might be thinking it's good for the people, but it's not good at all. So what is that defines good consequences? Now, there is an interesting philosopher, John Stuart Mill. He was in the 19th century, alive in the 1800s somewhere. And I mean, he was born in 1806 and died in 1873. So he said utilitarianism as a requirement to produce the greatest amount of happiness. What is happiness? He defined happiness as a life rich in pleasures. For instance, the higher pleasures of friendship, of love, intellectual endeavors. I mean, it will be coupled with some inevitable pains, the loss of some loved one, etc. But in effect, the higher pleasures would be going after love, being peaceful, intellectual endeavors. This is how he kind of defined them. And he came up with three forms of utilitarianism. Act. A particular action is right. A particular action is right if it is likely to produce the most good for the most people in a given situation. Very simple example. I mean, I've quoted here. Should we be continuing doing this lecture, for instance? You might want to take a break. The right action is the one that produces the overall good. So these are these questions. All these type of ethics that we are doing now, pokes our good sense and makes us think. That is why all of these 5 ethics, it's not that out amongst these 5 one stands out. No, they're all interlinked. There is no consensus on which is the right one. But yet it pokes our good sense, our intelligence. For instance, very interesting, if a particular situation, if more good is promoted by keeping the public ignorant about serious dangers, for example, by not informing them about a hidden fault in a car or a building, doing so is unfair, but perhaps the overall good is promoted. See, these are different aspects. So now, first one was act utilitarianism. The second one is rule utilitarianism. According to this view, right actions are those required by rules that produce the most good for the most people. This is interesting actually. It also applies to the rules stated in business or engineering code of ethics. A code of ethics has people abide by it even when an exception might be beneficial. Code of ethics therefore are generated amongst the business community, the engineering community or doctor community, because even if there is an exception might be beneficial, but we won't do it. For instance, if codified rules forbidding bribes are justified, I mean, you cannot give a bribe, then even if a particular bribe is beneficial in some situations, one should still refrain from them. This is the rule. Okay. For instance, there is this factory which produces cigarettes. There is a very famous brand, Philip Morris, which produces Marlboro and different types of cigarettes. I mean, we all know that Philip Morris employs more than 150,000 people, and they generate, they give a tax of over $4 billion, which is a lot of money. But we also know cigarettes kill more than 400,000 people, and there's so many youngsters who get hooked up on smoking and drugs, etc. And these deaths are greater. The deaths caused by smoking are greater than the combined death by alcohol, drug abuse, car accidents, suicide, etc. It's such a deadly thing. So what do we do then? Do we work in this company or not? Okay. The fourth is virtue ethics. Virtue means good, decent habits. They focus on good character. We all know that there are words for specific virtues which are familiar both in business as in graduates, like competence, honesty, courage, fairness, loyalty, humility. And there are certain which are as opposed to them, which are considered not good: incompetence, dishonesty, cowardice, unfairness, disloyalty, arrogance, etc. So these are virtue ethics. There is a very interesting thing which Aristotle has come up with. Very interesting. It's called the golden rule. Golden rule means that you don't go to the two extremes. For instance, in courage you become so bold that you become rash, one extreme. Or in courage you become so coward that you become go on the other extreme. So the pendulum is moving between two extremes. You become so courageous that you become rash, and you don't you become indifferent to the outcome, or you become a coward. So there is a golden mean, which is very interesting, to find the reasonable golden mean between the two extremes of much excess and deficiency in various aspects of our lives, whether in conduct, in emotion, or desires. That is interesting actually. So this comes under virtue ethics. So the most important virtue is practical wisdom, that is morally good judgment, which enables us to discern the mean for all other virtues. You know what is mean? The two extremes and the mean, golden mean. So what would be the thing that you don't go become rash in courage or a coward on the other side? There should be a mean. So Aristotle says, very interesting, the educated differ from the uneducated as much as the living from the dead. This is how he is compared an educated person to an uneducated, as if there is a difference between dead and the living. The most comprehensive virtues are responsible professionalism, public well-being, professional competence. That is the perfect platform which a university gives you. It wants you to adopt professional competence, cooperative practices, and personal integrity. Okay. Virtue ethics is mastery of one's profession, in particular mastery of the technical skills that characterize good business practices. For instance, the competence, being well prepared for the jobs. Competence, what is competence? Being well prepared for the job. The university gives that platform where you can become competent subsequently in your job. Diligence means avoiding the deficiency of laziness and being a workaholic. Two extremes, either you are very lazy or the other extreme is you are just working day in and day out. Both are extremes. The mean is diligence. Whatever job is given to you, we try to do that job within that stipulated time. Creativity within a rapidly changing technological society. We got to be creative, we got to be moving abreast with the modern world. That is the essence. And honesty obviously falls into groups. Honesty is what guides all these factors. Fifth, self-realization ethics. Self-realization ethics emphasizes the moral significance of self-fulfillment. You got to fulfill yourself positively. You got to enhance your personality, your character, your integrity, your virtues. The other side of it, the not so good side, is ethical egoism. Egoism is something that if I think something is correct or something that I feel I want for myself, that is not such a good idea actually. So individuals vary greatly in what they desire most strongly and also in their talents and virtues. So you got to be self-realize your desires, but not at the expense of others, because we are members of a society. We have to take everybody along us. And ethical egoism, that is why it sounds like an endorsement of selfishness. As such, ethical egoism is an alarming view. I mean, we shouldn't be practicing that. In the end, which ethical theory is the best? Just as ethical theories are used to evaluate actions, rules, character, ethical theories can themselves be evaluated also, because they evaluate the other good attributes in a human being. The theories themselves can be evaluated. So ethical theories are attempts to provide clarity, consistency, systematic and comprehensive understanding, and they help us in our moral matters. I mean, these are These are interesting things. So, we see that more than the differences, there are similarities amongst these ethics, 5 ethical theories. So, there are more similarities over differences. So, that is a nice thing, and I think that's about it. So, what we need to do is we understand these 5 ethical theories, and later we compare it with the divine ethical theory that comes down from God Almighty. Thank you very much. I see you. Assalamu alaikum.